Hi, welcome to the Optimizing Your Brilliance podcast, where we get to the source of what makes people brilliant and explore how to eradicate the barriers that stop you from shining. By shining, I mean being at your absolute best in both work and life. You'll hear from business and thought leaders who bear all and share their insider secrets, along with my episodes focused on optimizing your performance, productivity, success, and well-being. My name is Estelle Reid, founder of Be, executive coach, speaker, and best-selling author of Inner Brilliance, Out to Shine, 10 Antidotes to Imposter Syndrome, Workaholism, and Stress. So, if you're ready to take your work life to the next level, let's begin. Rachel Rainbow describes herself as a well-rounded HR professional, but in my opinion, she's actually an HR veteran because she spent 16 years in a variety of industries, including manufacturing, healthcare, and now Reed Smith LLP, which is in the legal sector. An authentic, integrity-first leader, Rachel explains how a safe, non-judgmental workplace unlocks the best in people. We dissect her leadership recruiting lens, revealing the top 4 qualities she looks for in leaders and candidates. And she said something I didn't expect, but it was really refreshing to hear. We also tackle practical steps for addressing underperformance. This is a really popular topic which leaders bring into coaching sessions with me. So there are some really useful tips in that part of the discussion. And we also unpack negativity bias and why the old notion of work-life balance, this was news to me, so it was like a complete update doing this podcast, is actually an obsolete phrase, and how to cultivate a meaningful work-life blend instead, which also throws up quite a few things that need to be managed. So we get into all of that. I learned a lot from Rachel in the hour that we spent together, and I could have spoken to her for a lot longer. I had so many questions that I wanted to ask her. She's such a warm and interesting person, and I hope you enjoy listening to this as much as I enjoyed interviewing her. So let's dive in. So welcome everybody. I've got Rachel Rainbow with me, who works for Reed Smith. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I was just saying to Rachel, she's just got the best name ever. But what I want to say, first of all, is that it's Rachel's fault that I started my podcast again.
I disagree, and hopefully not regretting my choices.
The very brief history is we were connected on LinkedIn, weren't we? And we started chatting, and then you volunteered and said, oh, if you ever need a guest for your podcast, I'd like to come on. And
Oh, no idea why I said that, but yeah, here we are.
But can I just say that's a really brave thing to do as well, because a lot of people are a bit afraid of coming on a podcast. And it's interesting how many people say, oh no. So the fact you volunteered tells me a lot about you. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. One of the things we start with is, what's your origin story and what makes you you?
Oh gosh. So I guess I'm just a very typical Yorkshire lass who grew up in Doncaster, of all places, and then moved on to my first role in my life, really, and I landed myself a job in HR, and that led me to kind of moving to Sheffield, to where I am now. I definitely wasn't an academic person. I definitely didn't think, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a HR manager, because that would be quite strange. So HR was brand new to me. I remember being asked to do an org chart, an organization chart, and I was there looking on Excel, looking at a bar chart, a pie chart. Can't find an organization chart. Like, what is that? Didn't understand like the basics of business. And yeah, I just really fell into the people space, and I kind of have a little bit of a theatre background. Is that the right way of saying this? Which I touched on a little bit earlier when we were chatting before. Like I used to just love being on stage when I was younger, and I found that my ability to adapt to the different environments that I was working in, whether that be, I've worked in the care industry to then manufacturing and all those kinds of people and backgrounds where they come from are very different. And I found myself, almost changing as a person to become a more effective HR professional, really. So that's something that I think has helped me become brilliant and helped others become brilliant as well.
That's brilliant. And so, tell me about being on stage then. So give me a
Oh.
bit more information.
I probably shouldn't have let that one out the bag. Um, so when I was younger, I was just very creative, not that academic, and I was in all the school plays. I remember being, quite young and kind of, yeah, having like solos and singing on my own and acting, and I loved it. And actually, still do to this day. I had a bit of a gap from effectively since my career kicked off. I sort of stopped all of it, amateur dramatics, all of that, and then I just picked it up recently as a sort of a newish mum. I decided I needed to find myself again, and so I joined this adult singing group about a year ago, and oh, it's just completely changed my life, brought myself back. And there's things from that performing that I think translate into the world of work, whether you're in HR or not. But yeah, so a little bit about me that I wasn't actually expecting to go into that much detail on.
Ah, no, we
But there we
love
go.
detail. We love detail. And so I've heard singing is supposed to be really good for your well-being. It's good for
Yeah.
reducing stress and
Mm.
improving happiness. How's it changed your life?
I think just in terms of having other like-minded people that I now know through that is probably one of the biggest things. They won't know it, but they have got me through some really tough times, just by having a regular weekly attendance of something that's just for me. And it's not work related because I'm kind of one of those people that are a bit work, 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 and that's all I do. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of it. The singing is absolutely there, and it's brought my confidence back, and yeah, and just reminded me that I'm skilled in other areas as well. Don't make me sing, but yeah, I think I'm all right.
What kinds of things do you sing?
Well, we do all sorts, so we're very just a group of adults that like to sing. It's not necessarily that we can sing, just caveat at that. But we did so the first ever show that I did with them was this March, just gone. And that was country music, which is completely something that I don't really listen to or sing. Yeah, so but it was really cool. We all had like cowboy hats on and boots, and that was really fun. But we sing everything from musicals to like the pop stuff now to more of my sort of era, like the 90s and the noughties, which is good fun. But it's really mixed. And
Nice.
I also have like one-to-one sing lessons as well, which is something I always wanted to do as a kid, but just from a financial perspective couldn't do. So that's nice as well.
Ah, that's cool. And you were saying, just to pick up on what you were saying earlier about HR, you said you fell into it. I fell
Yeah.
into coaching. What was it? How did you fall into HR? What's the background?
Yeah, okay, actually, now I've come to think of it, that's a really that's a really good story. So whenever I got my first ever job and I was working at a kind of a medical reception. And I was young, I was 18, 19. I kind of just left college, not really knowing what to do. And I started like a degree in IT, and I'm not a computer person at all. And ended up getting myself into a bit of trouble because I was young and I didn't understand that, the reason for being late, for putting petrol in your car, it wasn't an adequate excuse, especially, especially when it was a few times. But I think that was something, that I still have to today, in understanding how kind of all that early career stuff and that transition from work to professional, it's even harder now, I think. I probably had some level of support, probably clearly not enough, but I ended up unfortunately getting exited out is the right word. And it just got me into looking at, employment law and my rights. And I suppose that sort of sparked off an interest. I accept that I as a 19-year-old hadn't behaved all that well, but I think I think they also were taking advantage of quite a young girl, impressionable first job, that kind of thing. So I don't think there was things on both sides. And yeah, I think about that employment and that situation a lot. And I didn't deliberately then go on the hunt to find a role in HR. A close friend would say, you'd be good in HR, you're really personable, you like people. Oh, how that is not what I would think of putting someone in HR now, but it did work. It did, yeah, I did land a HR job and then it just went there and a lot of hard work along the
And
way.
so, because we were just talking before we hit record, and I was saying it's like 20 years since I held my head of HR role. So, what's the difference, would you say? So, compared with when you first got in HR and what's required of you today?
Yeah, I think there's a big focus on making sure that people are up to speed and working in their roles as quickly as possible. I think 15 plus years ago when I started out, there was a lot, there was just less of a rush, and it was very much, oh, that person's only been here a year, like a year, leaving after a year, leaving after 3 years was really quite soon. But where I'm at now, and I've obviously been in a variety of different industries, it's all about getting that person up to speed with the business specifics, but also hitting the ground running with their actual role. And I think part of that comes is the technology changes and that dependency. And I'm a very strong advocate around HR, operations, technology, even from a strategic perspective as well.
Yeah. And so, what's your view as to what's driven and made things more of a rush? Is it technology? Is it legislation? What's
Um, I think it's the pace of life that we all have now, and that's driven by technology. If you think about it, we're if I was listening to one of your podcasts around switching off, and it was about Ed Sheeran not having a phone, and I think that we're in a world now where we're instant. If you've not replied instantly, if you've not come back instantly, if you've not finished that job quickly, then that isn't good enough. And taking time to do things properly, I think, is a little bit overlooked these days.
and
Um,
where do you think and we get that standard from, as in if we're not instantly replying to things that it isn't good enough? Because I see that in my daughter's generation as well. What's your view?
I mean, I dare say that there's a little bit of presenteeism in there as well. If that person isn't present, um, I think that we have a lot of demands on. The business demand more from us. I see businesses wanting like, organic growth at the rate of ridiculous, I think, sometimes. And I think the money is the driver. There's the world that we live in now, with the cost of living, everyone, wanting to be the best in the field that they're in. And I think it all links down to the technology enables us to be more demanding of people as well.
And it is really challenging, isn't it, to create those boundaries
I feel
and and like I can't remember whether I said this on that podcast that you were referring to, woman of a certain age, um, but I've sacked off WhatsApp last year,
oh
and
wow.
it has been real. It has really stemmed some of the flow of noise.
It released you.
Yeah, not only from I used to get loads of spam for one,
Yeah.
but the other thing as well is like I was part of like a I don't know why I'm whispering because this is going out. I was I was part of a community group. This is going back a few years, and it was just ridiculous. You'd look down 45 messages, and I think, what is the synopsis here? What is going on? And then you can get family politics, friendship politics, and I just found it really quite draining.
Yeah.
But I know I have upset a few people by coming off WhatsApp, and it has been an inconvenience. And then all of a sudden, people have said, use this instead. I'm thinking, oh, I don't really want to. But the other interesting thing I found as well is that the good old fashioned text message, for some reason, people will think about what they're sending, or that's been my experience. So rather than WhatsApp back and forth, a well
You can,
honed text message.
yeah. Do you find that with email?
I am ruthless when it comes to. I am like a time optimization person. So I am really, really ruthless. I manage a really tight inbox.
Okay.
I do mass deletes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awful.
It's necessary though, isn't it? I have a quick link or whatever you call it in Outlook that basically moves anything that I've done, I've responded to, or I don't need to reply to.
Ah, that's
If it was
cool.
in my inbox, it would stress me out. And I know I've
Yeah.
done it. Just I need visually out
Yes.
and go back to it.
And that's a scientific thing as well. You know, the less visual clutter we have, the more relaxed we can be. So I'll have to look into that. What is it then? So there's a
Just a quick, oh, let me have a quick look on it because I'll forget. It's called a, where's the name gone? Quick step in Outlook.
ooh,
And you
I'll-
just click a button and you can set what it, mark it as unread, move it to this folder, done.
ooh, nice. Thanks. That's Rachel Rainbow's first tip.
Oh, geez. Everyone will be like, yeah, I wrote that 10 years ago.
Nah, not for Gen Xers like us.
Yeah,
So we will be very grateful for that tip.
sure.
So, what on the topic of tips and being, I was saying it's great you're in HR because we're all about it's people and we obviously we have that cradle to grave relationship and we want our people to be brilliant, don't we, during that relationship. So, what, in your view, so when I don't know, either when you're working with people or when you're recruiting people, what makes people brilliant? What qualities do you admire or require?
I think it's really different depending on, are they your client? Are they your stakeholder? Are they your supervisor? I think we require all different things to be brilliant in different areas. But, something that really hit home when I was interviewing for Reed Smith was around authenticity and integrity. And I think that really resonated with me because I've always just been me, and I think that I get a lot more out of people that are just them as well. And I'm almost overly authentic and not necessarily always I don't know whether politically correct is the right word. I think I am politically correct, but you know, I'm not always the super duper professional that, you imagine HR to be, so that people feel that they can talk and that they can open up and that they can say, within the four walls. And I think when I've seen that in other people, and certainly from a supervisory perspective, being able to talk without judgment at work is really important. And interviewing recently for a junior HR role that will support me, one of the things that I always say is we are together. We have to be professional as much as possible outside, but if we need to vent and we need to rant, you can be assured that that's the safe space. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
No, so when it comes to authenticity,
Yeah,
and I mean, like authenticity, integrity, they are real values of mine, honesty, integrity. And I've sacked jobs off if integrity is being pinched. It makes me feel really uncomfortable. Can't do it. And it's a really interesting balance. And I was talking to my husband about this the other day because I am a really honest person. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm straightforward. What you see is what you get. When I screw up, I'll tell you. I will also celebrate successes as well, but not in a bragging way, just like yay. But I like to do that with other people as well. There's nothing more I love than to see people shine, grow, be brilliant. I'm all about that. But what's interesting, when we are authentic, when we do lead with integrity, when we are really honest, is that sometimes that can be taken advantage of, can't it?
yeah.
Has that been your experience as well?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. It's painful. Yeah, I remember, speaking in previous jobs about how, there's certain things that I struggle with in terms of work, and I'd really like their support in terms of improving. And then, that's been something they've slapped on my appraisal as something I need to improve on carefully.
Yeah, and something you said earlier, and I was thinking, oh, I would love to have worked for you. If I was in that junior HR role and my future potential boss said, you can, what did you say? Something like,
Yeah.
if you need to let off steam, this is a safe place. And it's all about psychological safety, isn't it? And helps people to bring their real selves to work. Um, where does that come from in you? Allowing people to talk without judgment.
It's a really good question. I think it's just such a natural thing to me. I just would hate if I couldn't talk like that. That's just me. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but for me, being able to be really open and get, have a place to be frustrated because working with people.
Well, you are especially, aren't you? Yours is just such a people
Oh,
industry, isn't it?
yeah. And I love people. Some people, certain people, a few people, maybe not. But maybe no one. I don't like anyone. And those days will come, right? Those days will come. I mean, that's what we do to our friends. That's survival, right? But
Yeah,
and I see it just the same in the workplace.
yeah. No, absolutely. And if we go down the formal route, obviously that rant leads or frustration can lead to a grievance, can't it? But
Yeah.
hopefully by having that safe space, and my view is that if you can lance that boil early on, as in resolve it while it's small, and
Yeah.
resolve that frustration while it's small before it escalates into something else.
Yeah.
And often people, it's just because they don't feel heard, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's a lot of that not feeling heard, especially. when you're growing in roles and you're trying to grow your career and you might not be seen as the most experienced person, around the table. And I think that anyone at any level has got so much to give and so much creativity and great ideas, that just haven't been thought of because we're all stuck in our ways, let's be honest.
Mm,
Um, yeah.
yeah. So, as an HR professional, thinking again about brilliance and thinking about the current state of play when it comes to the labour market, are there any absolute? Because I was listening to a podcast this morning about I'm getting ready to approach publishers again, and so I was recapping on what I need to do basically, and this lady gave top 20 no-nos, things that they didn't want, things that they did want. And I was sat there going, oh no, yeah, I could have done that. So, what, as an HR professional who is responsible for recruiting people, I'm guessing, for you, what are you looking for? What are your no-nos? What are your, this is a great quality applicant?
I take a different spin and think about it more on what it takes to be, well, almost like a good people manager and leader. Because those are the people that I interact with on more of a day-to-day level. And I think for me, it's the ones that are able to trust and able to understand where their responsibility starts and ends, what they're accountable for, and being open to being responsible and accountable. Because a big part of being a leader is taking accountability and allowing for fault to come at their door, even if it's not necessarily their fault. But it's what we do with that and how we work with our teams to ensure it's not happening again. And so I think, yeah, all of those things I think would be where I would be looking. We're coming to a stage where we're no longer going to be able to um, exit new employees as frequently as perhaps we do today. There's new employment legislation coming in to suggest that there'll be a smaller window for where people can claim unfair dismissal. And I'm all for it, realistically. It's probably a HR nightmare, but at the same time, I think businesses need to be accountable for providing the right training for their managers to enable them to hire the right people and assess when they're doing well, when they're doing not, and not just saying no, goodbye when they're not doing well. Actually, you know, optimize them and look at what they can do to help and improve. So yeah, just having that open mind as well.
And in your experience, so I coach leaders, and
Mm.
one of the things that routinely will come into the coaching conversation is I've got this difficult employee, they're not really performing. Have you told them no? I just want the quickest solution. Does HR know? No. And I'm still surprised that can be the state of play. That, and even last week I was running a session on having difficult conversations. Humans don't like having, not every human,
Yeah,
but diffi-
humans.
yeah. What's your experience from an
I
HR
think
perspective?
yeah, I come across that situation a lot, and I think it's really easy to judge when you're the one teaching or advising, and I just think that we touched on it at the beginning. This responsive rate that everyone's being requested in their day-to-day like work and lives is so fast that kind of managing people just is the lowest priority.
Yeah.
And it's not a deliberate, I don't think my managers come to me deliberately saying, sorry, I haven't let you know for the last 3 months, but yeah, I don't want to pass this person's probation. Like they haven't deliberately cut me out. It's just they've maybe not known where to go to. They've not had success in the past with HR teams, perhaps. And yeah, they've been busy because they've not only been trying to do their own job, train their new person, uh, fix the new person's errors, perhaps, and then managing and kind of dealing with that and getting advice. I mean, I'm the worst for it to get to delegate work. I can do it quicker myself. It's fine. It's so normal. It's so human. And I think it's a place where managers can get to, even the most experienced who know that it's great to kind of hit start early. And I think
Yeah,
it comes down to that interaction and support and where your management is at, what level they're at, where their leadership training and things are.
because my next question, but you already preempted it, was going to
Oh,
be what advice would you give if there's leaders out there listening? So, first of all, you said start early. So, what for you? Because as human beings, we make judgments all the time, don't we? About, is this working? Is it not working? We get an instinct, don't we? But obviously, we have to be careful about those things. So, what would you advise? So, if they get an instinct, oh, something's not quite right, what would you advise would be the next step?
yeah. Well, I am a strong believer of sometimes, going with the gut, but I do think that there's a lot around bias and unconscious bias that we
Yes. Yeah.
do. And I think it's planning really. It's planning sort of at that early stage to firstly kind of avoid. So a lot of people or managers perhaps don't think that they can ask for support when they're, I don't know, looking at an induction planner or onboarding, and perhaps it's very last minute, but it might not be something that your HR teams are going to give you on a plate, because I don't know what your job is in
Yeah.
detail, in vast detail. I don't know how to do your job. But it's not, it's something that we can certainly like look over and give resources and put pointers on. So I think there's tapping into the support that's around you. And it's not just HR, of course, it's all
Mm.
of this. It's your leaders, your colleagues, your peers, your other teams that they interact with. And then, yeah, to your point, when there is that, oh, I'm not too sure, like, is this person as qualified as I thought they were, or as experienced as I thought they were? I think it's just unpicking it a little bit more and investigating it and thinking about what are the things that potentially could be impacting this person? What are their strengths? And is that an alternative sort of aspect to look at if they're not particularly strong in whatever that you're finding? Where are their strengths so that they're, encompassing all of the role that you expect them to without needing to go down a management out perspective or a probation exit. Because there's a lot of time and money wasted with that.
Yeah, and you've 2 points. One, I want to come back to the unconscious bias in a sec, but secondly, you asked such a valid question, which is what's impacting this person, and my spin on that. When we get no, I call it naughty behaviour on the surface, as in this person's a bit out of sync. They're not, like, they were a bit short with me, or they're not responding to an email or whatever else. And it's a little bit like, I'll often talk about leadership is a bit like parenting, in that leaders are often the parents. When you look at the parent adult child, so the pack model, and when your child is acting up, instead of just saying to the child, don't do that, which of course doesn't get to the root cause. The child is acting up because they've not slept, they've missed a meal, they're uncomfortable, they need emotional needs met. And one of the things I spout about is, I say, treat yourself a bit like a baby. Think about a child's needs Often we don't look after our own needs, do we? And so if someone is out of step or a bit off, what's impacting this person? And anyway, enough about that. But so really
I
great
think
question.
I think it links to that authenticity as well as a leader. Like, can you be trusting? Can you allow a safe space for people to talk to you? And often I see that the people that don't really have that appetite, yeah, just don't fully understand the other impacts, the other things that can impact people at work.
Yeah, no, that's such a great tip. And so for those that are unfamiliar with unconscious bias, can you expand on what that's about?
Oh gosh, now you're testing me. I told you I was an academic. Unconscious bias is where you are, you have an over familiar like of someone because they may be like you, and
Yeah,
you don't realize that you are liking that person because they're like you and because they do things that you do, or because that's just what you take to. And that I think that's the best way I could probably describe unconscious bias. So being biased without realizing it.
yeah. And so back in the day, this is how old I am. We used to have the IPM, not the CIPD. That's how old I am.
Mm.
Um, but they used to talk about the horns and halo effect.
Yeah. Oh,
So it's the
yeah. Go
old-fashioned horns halo effect, is my understanding. So in other words, certain people have horns, and other people get away with stuff because we see ourselves in them, and they are the
And that can be down to what people wear, how people speak.
wow.
Like there's a lot of that. And I think in HR we have to challenge ourselves regularly to ensure that we aren't unconsciously biasing ourselves with our favorite leaders, our favorite managers, or, in a grievance. You have to be so neutral in a grievance. And it's hard not to have biases or unconscious biases in that.
I was coaching a chief people officer this morning, funnily enough,
Oh,
and we were talking about just broadly. So when we're in relationships, how I was talking about, so in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, we
mm,
were talking about how we can put our map onto another person's map. What that means is, so we have so much information to process. They reckon about 11 million bits of information per second. That comes in through our senses, the senses which we know about. So I was listening to another podcast the other day, and this lady was saying they reckon, don't quote me on this, it's between 32 and 36 other senses. So there are other senses we don't know about.
okay.
But of the popular ones, so see, hear, feel, touch, smell, taste, we've got that 11 million bits of information coming in, so that's input. So you've worked in manufacturing, production line analogy. The process in the middle is your mind, your unconscious mind. And if we are 99% autopilot, this is why challenging
Yeah.
your
Unconscious bias.
unconscious bias, I had to look for the term, your
Wow.
I've been out of
I
HR
didn't,
too long.
I didn't think I was that clever, but I do now.
You are really clever. So we are 99% we're on autopilot, not really thinking about what we're doing. But that autopilot is made of our values, our beliefs, our past experience. So if you have had a poor past experience of a certain type of a person, this is where discrimination comes from. We generalize about people. So it's in the box of generalization. And then we have the filter of distortion. So we change the shape or the meaning of what we're perceiving. And then we have deletion. We just delete, that person who just gets on and does the job without complaining. And
I want to
all
be.
that, yeah, so we've got all this information coming in. It goes through our filtering system, which is unique to us because none of us has the same past experience. And then, so that's the process. And then at the end is the output, which is our map of reality. So this is how we see things. So that's why reality isn't reality, it's only our version of reality. But that's why emotional intelligence, being self aware of all of that stuff helps with your term unconscious bias, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Daily
love it.
challenge.
So, you have said, you keep saying to me, I'm not academic, right? That's one thing I say as well, right?
Yeah.
And I have openly shared, and I won't bore you with my story because I've shared it all over the place. Where does that experience come from? How do you know that's true?
Oh, it was just such hard work at school. It was hard work when I was doing my COPD masters. And if I'm really honest, I don't learn from books or from reading. I learn from listening. I learn from people, conversations, doing. I do not learn from sitting in a classroom reading a book, writing a 2,000 word essay on HR context. Um, that's yeah, and maths and all of that, school wasn't for me. I just wanted to be in the drama studio, bossing people around, telling them where to stand, telling them what to do. That's yeah, generally what I preferred. Yeah, anything that required more, I wouldn't say creativity because I also don't think I'm that creative, but I think just doing something different, learning in the traditional sense is what I mean by academic. And maybe academic has changed a lot recently, since I was at school. Now I feel old. But yeah, so I think that's what I mean by what academic. Yeah.
Because, again, there's all sorts of different types of intelligence, aren't there? We all learn in different ways. Some are more visual, some more auditory, some more kinesthetic. If we're kinesthetic, it means we like to walk through. We
Yeah.
like to have a walk through. I am totally not auditory. If you sat here, I'm like making notes of what you're saying because it's like in one ear out. I have to have a
Yeah.
visual
Well,
representation.
I'm quite visual. Yeah.
And it's and going back to this CIPD masters, oh my god, the exams are so hard, aren't they? I only marginally passed.
I was happy for passes. I don't think I got anything more than a
Yeah,
pass.
that's
Whilst
great.
whilst you're working as well. I look back and think, how did I fit it all in? But
Yeah,
very simple life for them is.
but it is the golden ticket for your HR career, isn't it?
Seemingly, I'm not sure if it's the same anymore, but
Really?
yeah, I don't know. I do see the need for CIPD in more job adverts than I'd like to see.
Yes.
And I'm just not sure whether that's in there just because it feels like the right thing to put in there and they actually sort of request. And because if I was to have a standout candidate and they didn't have their level 5 CIPD, it wouldn't trigger anything in my brain not to hire them because of qualification. But that may be because of my unconscious bias.
But that is ace that you feel that way.
I do. I feel
Um,
quite about it.
what do you think? Because we were saying you're also part of HR Ninjas. So, I mean, I think, oh, this might be a bit political. What's your view?
Of the landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's difficult, isn't it? Because I think, the CIPD was a huge support in my early career. And I don't know what it's like now for those that are in the CIPD. And I had a very, very short stint, not as long as I'd like, being a CIPD kind of committee member.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this was post-COVID, and there was a real like drop in the amount of events and things that they were doing because of COVID. So I was kind of on that sort of side of things, trying to get things up and running again. But I think the support that the CIPD does is good to a point. I do think it's more on the academic side.
Hmm.
I think that's where they're specialists. But I think when you've got a real problem, when you really just want to vent, or you need just well-rounded HR individuals that have had experience in lots of different places to give you what their view of the situation is, all anonymous and confidential, of course. I think that's the HR ninjas. That's where people should be heading. And I actually interviewed a few people lately, as you know, and they've all mentioned the HR ninjas without me even mentioning it before. And they
Wow.
said, I joined it last year, oh, I'm in a standalone role now. I found it really useful. And I never hear anyone say the same thing from a CIPD standpoint. But it's not to say that I don't also have a very good bond and lifetime bond with the CIPD. I do. I just think that there are more supportive forums or businesses that can help HR professionals now, such as yourselves and coaches, and but also yeah, I do think that the HR ninjas have got something really good there for everyone.
What do you get out of it?
The HR ninjas,
Yeah.
oh gosh, everything. I mean, I love hosting the events, like meeting all these new people, and I say it every time I go to an event, I meet with people, and every challenge that we have, even though we all work in such different industries, the challenge is the same, retention, the Gen Z, like the challenges that we have, they're all very, very similar, just obviously slightly nuanced with the job that they do. But it is a new world that we're working in now, and we're challenged by kind of a work-life blend, not a work-life balance, and all that kind of stuff there. But yeah, I mean, I get so much from the ninjas. I get the meetups, so that's great. Advice on probably some of the most basic things that you think you know, but you haven't done for 10 years, and it's like, what, how do I do this calculation again? And it's sometimes you don't want to ask a colleague about that. You just want to be like anonymous and be like, I've forgotten how to do this. Please can you help me? And there's an abundance of people that will come and say, hey, yeah, this is how I would do it. Or validate how you think it should be done, There's this, yeah, I could talk the life out of the HR ninjas, as you can tell. We've tapped into a piece.
I really love that. I wish HR ninjas had been around when
Yeah,
I felt so alone.
yeah.
Especially in, a lone HR role.
I imagine that you probably are like you're still in touch with the people that developed you and supported you throughout
Mm,
your career, because they were the people, they were my HR ninjas.
yeah.
I'm seeing them both on Friday. They're my HR ninjas. Like they're the
Ah,
ones that took me in my first role. And if I didn't have them or the HR ninjas, the official ninjas, I don't know where I'd be.
yeah. No, it really does sound wonderful. And who is it open to? Is it just HR professionals, or how does it work?
Yeah, so it's generally HR professionals that work in-house.
Yes.
Um, and they do partner with certain businesses. So, if you're looking for like an employment lawyer or an occupational health therapist, there's got some really good, like really fully vetted people, which is great because sometimes it's so hard finding a certain provider for things in HR. So they've done all the legwork for you, which is good.
No, that's great. I definitely am going to have to do some more digging, although I wouldn't be able to join by the sounds of it because I am not in house. But
And
um,
yeah, I think that's the problem of getting in there. But there might be a space as a partner for
oh,
you one day.
yeah, who
Yeah.
knows? So, oh, you'd said something earlier, and I thought, oh, that's a phrase I've not heard.
Oh gosh,
I feel like I've had a really good update chatting to you.
I didn't think you'd be thinking that.
Yeah, no, definitely. So you said work-life blend. What's that?
Ah, oh my gosh. So it's really just, it comes back to how technology is just changing the way, we work and how we're needed to be so responsive. It's, you know, a balance of work life is you log on and then you log off at a reasonable time, and that's a work-life balance. The work-life blend is around how we are now in that digital age where I can work at midnight. I don't want to say that I do, but I can work at midnight if I choose to. And everything is there for me. And so putting that into a positive spin, some people may work better at midnight. So a work-life blend is almost around how work and life are becoming, not necessarily sure it's the right thing or not, but they are becoming a blend rather than a balance. So I might go out for an hour in my working day because that's the only hour I can sort of fit in whatever it is I need to do. Pick up my daughter some shoes because her feet are growing at the rate of whatever. Um, but not that's not my, it's not a real life experience, I promise. And then I might be working that hour at 11 p.m. at night because I've just thought of something that I needed to do or I needed. So it's a blend rather than a balance now.
Hmm.
I hope I've explained that well
Yeah,
or not.
yeah,
Yeah, bit
yeah. So,
wordy.
no, no, oh my God, I remember when I had to get permission to dial up,
Yeah.
and it used to go beep, beep, like that. That's, as I say, 20 years ago. And the fact that you've got this flexibility, I take all of that for granted working for myself. But therefore, the requirement to have boundaries, again, is even more important, isn't it? And, but also,
Harder.
yeah, so much harder. And also, you can understand how to circle back to what you were saying at the start, where everything is a rush. No wonder it's a rush. And how do you how do you judge when someone's on and when someone's off? Where does all of that fit?
Uh,
Um,
Are they
so,
are they taking too much time off?
mm,
No. That's, all about output, assessing output rather than what work they're doing and what times they're logging on. But they all kind of merge and blend together.
mm, yeah,
So
that,
yeah, a manager doesn't have a simple job, to come back to, a manager who may feel that they're failing as a manager because they're not on it with their employees. It's just a very hard thing to do. It's tough.
no, it is tough. And on that note, I remember one leader, he came up with the term, I'm going to get a bat phone. And the bat phone was for holidays, and only a number of his partners had the number, so that if the crap hit the fan, they had the bat phone number, but other than that, he was offline.
It's scary, isn't it, it has to get to that level.
But it is definitely a barrier, is not a barrier, a boundary.
A boundary. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So to bring things to a close, where do you see yourself 3 to 5 years? What's
Oh
are you
gosh.
are you are you a longer term person, or does your mind work more in 6 or 12 months
So
spells?
normally, I would normally be a 3 to 5 year person. I think at the moment I am unable to look that far ahead, just from a few sort of personal, I would say, things that are at my door. And I think just as a having a young child, you tend to just think in 3 to 6 month stages as it is. So yeah, no, for me, very much. I mean, the ultimate goal for me, is to keep doing what I'm doing and doing it well. I think that's a massive mission for me. I'm not necessarily the type of person that wants the chief people officer of the world or director of the universe. Like, that's not where success comes from for me. Success is being in a business that means something to me, that's doing something for the world, that is ultimately helping the future of my daughter. So yeah, just doing what I'm doing and not changing who I am for
Yeah.
anything or anyone.
Yeah. So that that sounds real purpose, mission driven.
Yeah, yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, I love that.
Wonder that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Liz,
me.
it has been fabulous talking to you, and I know that lots of leaders and other HR professionals will love your chat and your tips. Thank you so much for coming on, and as I say, pushing my comfort zone to get this thing going. Ha ha ha!
On the ground.
No, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you'd like to be notified when the next episode drops, remember to subscribe. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit. Finally, if any of these topics have sparked your interest and you'd like to work with me, you can apply for a free discovery call at estellereid.com. Let's see if we're a good fit. You'll also find plenty of free resources there. I'm Estelle Reid, executive coach, speaker, and best-selling author, and this has been the Optimizing Your Brilliance podcast. Thanks for listening. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. Please consult with a qualified professional for any specific advice related to your situation.